Pack everything you love and get out. Out into nature, far away. Without thinking about the daily grind when you're constantly at work and it's all getting to you. That doesn't sound bad, does it? Today, I'll show you a car that's literally calling out for something like that. Welcome to a new adventure. We are Automotive.
Welcome aboard, this time in a commercial vehicle that we have here, lent to us directly by Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. Friends, the new transporter. Yes, I know, the T6.1, we love it. It's the last proper one. Now, the new one they're making with Ford, I don't know, man. I hear that opinion from everyone I talk to who used to drive or still drives transporters every day. And when you finally sit in the T7, it really depends on whether it's the multivan or the transporter, because they're not the same car anymore. They're two different ones. So you think, okay, the multivan stayed true to Volkswagen, but it's actually a luxury MPV through and through. And back there on the rear window, I can see FOMOCO, Ford Motor Company. And it's just a little bit different. Yes, Ford and Volkswagen worked on this together. A lot has changed. But that the car has the bodywork it does, and that Ford is mainly behind it, I will of course agree with you on that. But what I won't agree with is that it drives like a Ford. Because an interesting thing about the T7 is that Volkswagen kept the rear axle solution and insisted in the cooperation with Ford that this car, even the transporter, this classic type, would drive like the previous T4, T5, T6, T6.1 and so on. In other words, this car doesn't drive badly at all. And then there's B, the fight with emissions. Four-wheel drive, a more powerful diesel, a huge problem, they're being dropped from the lineup. Ha ha ha. So what about that? And Volkswagen? They launched an interesting program with a website called Volkswagen Przedstawi CZ. They simply say, we have vetted conversion specialists for these cars. The conversion specialists for these vehicles are approved and they can reclassify the vehicle for special purpose use. Therefore, they're kind of excluded from the emissions package. They don't fit in, they don't fall under it. And we can keep doing these interesting things, which means making a car with a powerful diesel engine, a strong four-wheel drive because it's, for example, an expedition vehicle, and at the same time, it has a lot of seats. Because if we careful, it's a really interesting issue. If we fell into the N1 category into a cargo vehicle, then it can never have more than 7 seats. That's set by law. So we're getting into a really thin line here, and in order to get around this and have, in our case, an 8-seater transporter, Mr. Americano, it's classified as an expedition vehicle. Well, so with the price lists, we're getting to where we want it to be. All in all, we're driving a car that, according to the price list, is fully loaded with most things and costs $1,745,000. And in this case, the company Sicar further equipped our specific car for another $260,000, excluding VAT when it became an off-road tool, not with absolutely everything, but actually pretty much. We have stronger springs here, which automatically account for an extra 300 kilos of payload and add 25 millimeters of lift. We have off-road tires here, size 235/65 R17. You can see that even the size of the wheel itself has changed. So it's a complete conversion. We have underbody protection, a ladder, lights, a roof rack, off-road ramps, plates you can drive on if you get stuck, hooks, tow eyes, and so on and so forth. Simply put, we have a transporter that's really built for tough conditions. And I want to talk with you about what it's like to drive this car, what bothers me about it, what I find interesting, and that those annoying driver aids need to be turned off every time you drive because, for example, the lane assist in this case can even be confused by greasy marks on the asphalt. When they're there, you know, those lines from those greasy residues on the asphalt, ha 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 ha. It basically has to take over the steering wheel for you because you weren't paying attention. Luckily, that one turns off pretty quickly here with a double click on the steering wheel, but for other things you have to dig through the submenus, dig, and it's not fun. It's not fun. Hey, is it more Ford or is it more Volkswagen? The engine in this case. Definitely, Ford. It's a 2-liter, yes, a TDI, but it's a 2-liter diesel from Ford's Panther series. Watch out for one thing with it. It doesn't like cold starts. It doesn't like when you just do short trips. It's an engine that has a timing belt running in oil with a lifespan of about 160,000 kilometers or 6 years. Honestly, it's probably fine, but you should know that this car just doesn't like being pushed too hard, especially if you want to tow something heavy with it for a long time and so on. Keep in mind that the timing system is designed in this interesting way, to put it politely, and it will simply require some maintenance. And of course, when the engine is cold, to reduce emissions, it injects a lot more urea than when it's warm and running with much fewer particulates, because the combustion is more efficient then. So even the urea injection, if you don't just do short city drives with this engine, you'll protect yourself from big expenses in the future, and that's definitely important. But still, even though we have a Ford engine, even though we have the bodywork that we do, I can't say that this car drives on the road like a Transit Custom. It just doesn't. For one thing, it's on these tires. So its behavior is quite different, but for me, it drives the way I knew it, and actually it even reminds me a little bit of the previous generation California, which I know well because I had a friend. We don't talk much anymore. I had a friend who had one, and we traveled half of Europe together in that car. And because it was also heavier, it didn't have a roof rack, but it had something on top. It had a roof, a tent, which again changes the car's center of gravity. Here we have, well, the cage on the roof with the spare tire and so on. So in the end, it drove very similarly. It also swayed a bit like this, but it had that spirit of the Transporter, which I personally feel here, and I definitely wouldn't say I'm driving a Ford car, even though it might seem that way sometimes. Of course, there are things here that I could imagine being different. To be clear, it's not the gearbox itself. The 7-speed DSG never really suited the multivan or Transporter, in my opinion, and that's for a simple reason. The gearbox software is, as usual, calibrated to keep the engine revs too low. It's not good for the dual-mass flywheel, and it's not great for the engine either. And you actually had quite a bit of trouble with it, especially at intersections. It was just a typical dual clutch with all its quirks. Sometimes it hesitated, took a moment to think. Here you've got an 8-speed torque converter automatic. A completely normal gearbox that shifts, I think, absolutely fine. And for a van and its use, maybe even a bit better than a DSG. With this, you don't need to drive it hard. You don't need to race or push it or anything like that. With this, you just want to drive and always have the right gear ready. And so that, from time to time when needed, you can overtake something if you have to, which this thing does. Let's say it can do that. I can't imagine them making an off-road special on that front-wheel drive that's left in the lineup. Because 110 kilowatts really isn't enough for a van this heavy. This one, look, 170 horsepower, it goes all right. We can't say it's an outright slow car. You'll have trouble with fast vans, yeah, and with slow ones you won't, so it's fine. There's another interesting point, and that's the all-wheel drive, which in this case is controlled by an electric clutch on the rear differential. Usually the all-wheel drive fully disconnects the drive shaft. That way, you're able to drive for a pretty reasonable amount of money. We're talking about roughly 9 liters per 100 kilometers. With this off-road equipment, it's more like 10, maybe 10 and a half. But it's less than you'd expect when you look at the tread pattern I have here. That's because the all-wheel drive system usually disconnects the drive shaft entirely. And it drives like a front-wheel drive. Only when the electronics determine, based on input data, that it's necessary, does this car switch to all-wheel drive. Does it have an advantage? You pay less to drive. Is there a downside? You can turn on the four-wheel drive so it runs permanently here in the off-road mode. Wait, I'll put that mode on. Hop, come here. We have a stop sign here. Driving mode. Chop loose surface. Now it's all-wheel drive all the time. But it still doesn't become an all-wheel drive that would actually enjoy being off-road. It's more about making sure that when you have a heavy van full of stuff, this system was designed for that. So it can get going even in the winter months. You turn it off. And again, it mainly behaves like a front-wheel drive. And what do I really want to get to? That's the gear selector for this transmission. Because what they came up with in Ford, and that's not a Volkswagen invention. I don't know. This is cost-cutting taken a bit too far. I guess that's a polite way to put it. The selector is the right lever, which used to operate the wipers. The selector up and down is fine, but manual mode, when Volkswagen traditionally put the same steering wheel in all its products across the spectrum, you could just have a regular multivan or transporter with paddles under the steering wheel. You could lock the gear when needed, knew you'd overtake, and it worked fine. I still have that steering wheel here. So I absolutely don't understand why no one agreed that Volkswagen would keep putting its own steering wheels in its cars, and here this M button on the lever would disappear, and so would the rocker switch forward and backward. Because manually, here you can select the gears after pressing the M button on the right lever. And like this, I put it in 5th. Like this, I put it in 4th. Like this, I put it in 5th. Like this, I put it in 6th. 5th. 4. And I apologize, but in a car worth 2 million crowns, with modifications, of course, with everything included, it simply costs 2 million, that's how it is. No, please, not like this. Okay, that's it. Even the liver is made of plastic, just like when I was peeling the wrapper off an Actimel. Similar? You squeeze it like this and it's done for. It feels so flimsy. Look, it's completely hollow. Yeah, that's it. That lever doesn't even weigh 15 grams. It's just a little piece of plastic. And you're supposed to grab it? No, I don't like that. Who is this car meant for? No, I don't know. I don't understand the point of it. Not at all. Of course, we said it at the beginning. A trick. Yes, you can carry a lot of people. Yes, thanks to that, and Volkswagen can keep making these kinds of special cars. With a different certificate of conformity. You get an interesting spec. No. But whether you'd actually use it, I think you'd have to be a very specific customer who needs to take people on off-road expeditions. Like 7 guests. Yeah? That's actually like the main goal. That a lot of people can fit in here, and it can go through a lot of stuff. And it really can go through a lot of stuff, I'm not gonna lie. I was doing these little mini off-road tracks here, the ones we've tried with different cars. And even some, I won't name them, but more famous brands had a bit of trouble with the steep slope and so on. This thing just goes. Also, thanks to the tires, of course, it has a lot of traction. And it's able to get through pretty well. I'm not sure about mud. We didn't try it since there wasn't any all week. But actually quite a lot of things, so I'm fine with that. I just don't know why I would do it. Yeah, that's probably my only point. It's not going to be anything clever. It's me, after all. Still, yeah. Hi. Maybe that's why you watch these videos, because I don't come off like I'm trying to sound too smart, right? Well, today I really am not. How do you drive it? In the end, it's completely normal. I don't mind it. It doesn't offend me. It's a van through and through. That's how I see it. And actually, it's a nice van, actually. Very plasticky. But still, sit in a T6.1 first. It was the same. This wasn't, yeah, the cup holder here, let's say, stayed. I'd like it a bit more to the side, but it's fine. It's okay. It's still there. I'm more or less okay. If it weren't for this stupid selector, I'd probably be more forgiving, and I think there wouldn't be anything to talk about. Well, it's an expensive car. But haven't transporters always been that way? Well, that's basically it, friends. You're amazing for being with us. Tell me what you think about a similar expedition off-road vehicle, which is very interesting. I have to say, I used it in my free time. I went several times to places I know. And thanks to that, there's a bike up there. I didn't take a chair with me, but you're able to enjoy the views and those places from a point that's 2.5 meters higher from eye level, because you just climb up there. You climb that ladder with a load capacity of 100 kg on the back of the trunk. I weigh exactly 100 kilos right now, so I can climb up there even with my shoes on and enjoy my own chill time. Yeah, so maybe one day when I'm living an adult life and I have kids and I want to spend time with them in nature, and there will be 7 of them, I don't know, or 6, and I would take my wife, who maybe I'll have one day. Well, actually, I already have her. Sorry, Heh, then I would appreciate something like that. Well, maybe something like that. Let me know if you have, say, 6 kids and you would like a similar car. Of course, raising kids probably costs money compared to 2 million, right? That's right, in life we just struggle. And with this, you can fight pretty bravely. It doesn't offend me. It's just that from the roof rack, it's been 90 since then, and even now. Wait, it's already 90 there. It's not going very well. Quite a racket. All right, cheers. Support us here. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.